We're also here for you. Let's see if we see somebody. El doctor Mario Polit acaba de entrar, así que sigue peleada la cosa con Cherry Ann, a ver quién tiene mayor asistencia. Pero realmente se van a ganar un premio, ¿eh? No crean que es broma. Vamos a hacerles el premio Oftalmo University de la mayor asistencia. Estamos tomando un matecito y preparando este día. A ver quién más. Diana, de Ciudad de México. ¿Qué tal, Diana? ¿Cómo estás? Espero que estén bien. Quiero que me vayan contando también a través del chat cómo fracturan el núcleo, ¿sí? ¿Cómo lo hacen? A ver, si les gusta PreChop, si hacen esculpido, si hacen chop, qué es lo que van haciendo. Quiero que me vayan comentando un poco por el chat. Hi everybody, those who speak English or Portuguese. Takashi is going to be here talking in Portuguese, and we're also going to be speaking in English. Jonathan, that it's the soul of this workshop, speaks Spanish, Portuguese, and English. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. We're asking Ron if they do, what do they do to fracture the lens? And they're also, most of them answer that they do sculpting, okay? The sculpting, stop and chop. Abrazos fuertes de Cherry Ann. ¿Qué tal, Cherry Ann? ¿Qué hace el resto? A ver, cuéntenos cómo fracturan ese núcleo. Nos parece muy importante tener muchas distintas técnicas para poder ¿no? adaptarnos a los distintos cristalinos. Saludos, mirá, está Carlos Restrepo, gran amigo de la casa. ¿Cómo andas, querido Carlos? Qué bueno tenerte. Alejandra Menchaca, también Edison Cano, Edwin Castro, Estrella, bienvenidos. We have another name that maybe is from there. It's Atluri Wotam. Where are you from? So we know where you're from. We like people from all over the world. We're going to speak different languages. Drinking some cimarrão for Dr. Takashi. Ahí. Muy bien. Takashi, come on. You need to speak some Portuguese too, because today we're going to have 3 languages. We're uniting the world. Tony Ye Eng. I'm sure that Tony is from Singapore, Ron.
Tony, is that right?
Tony Ye Eng. Yeah, we have people from every place. Nice.
Yes, I circulated to some people in my region.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, Gotham from Mexico.
Yes,
Hi,
we have people from Mexico. Actually, we asked them for a couple of pictures. I don't know if we got them, because those guys, I have it right here. Let me see if because I have all the, we want to share with people all the generations from PreChop. We're going to talk a lot about PreChops. Let's see if I can get those images. Jorge, sí, por favor. Jorge, genial. Jorge Hernández el otro día nos ayudó a traducir. Sí, Jorge, la vamos a necesitar en YouTube, te lo agradecemos, y también te vas a llevar un gran premio. Hoy vamos a hablar portugués, inglés y español. Así que la idea también es aprender un poquito todos de nosotros. A la doctora Luz Marina Melo, qué fuerte abrazo, que también hace mucho UltraChop, because we could also talk about UltraChop from Dr. Scaff. We have many ways to crack that lens. We're getting close to the time, so we're going to arrive in time. Jonathan is coming with us. We're going to do a quick introduction, and then Jonathan is going to have a hard time today because he needs to speak in 3 languages. Jonathan, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, Ivo, ¿qué tal estás?
Todo muy bien. Aquí ya estamos hablando con la gente que se viene sumando y sumando.
Ah, qué bien, ¿no? ¿Quieres hacer un test? Yo sé que queda poco.
¿Quieres? Claro que sí. Déjame que dejo de compartir.
A ver, un minutito.
Y a ver, inténtale compartir. Para los que hablan español, entonces, Jonathan Lake está en la querida Brasilia, Takashi Ida también en Brasilia, somos brasileños, pero Jonathan es uruguayo en realidad, eso es muy importante.
Somos todos uruguayos.
Y Ron está desde Singapur, ya tarde por allá.
Hi, Jonathan.
A ver si
Hello,
nos
Ron.
pueden ver.
Thanks so
Good
much
to
for
see you.
joining us.
Total pleasure.
It's going to be a great workshop. I'm really looking forward to it here.
Fíjate a ver si lo puedes compartir, Jonathan.
Voy a compartir. ¿Y lo ves acá?
Perfecto. Y ahí le pones play y ya.
Yo solo quiero confirmar si tengo control sobre el video.
Jonathan, at which stage do you want me to speak, Jonathan?
I would like to start out with you and your pre-chopping techniques.
Okay.
I think that'd be great. And Takashi, well, you guys shared a lot of meetings together talking about pre-chopping. And I think that's something that's well known. I would like to, share our experiences with that. Then he has this great video sharing other techniques of pre-factoring, which I would like to show, and that's on my computer. And then I have my ASCRS video that I sent with several pre-chopping techniques for quality teaching, but I just found out that I did not win the first prize in that.
Oh, there's always another time.
There's always another time. I know that more than everybody.
Hey, do you know how long we've been doing this for? We try every year.
Every year. I've been
doing it for 15 years.
Same thing. I started my first video that I sent to the ASRS.
15 years, Ron. Yeah, we sent one video last year and we lost, and we were sort of depressed with Lisandro.
So, there's that, but your video was just incredible, the video that you made.
Thank you.
So we should always make it.
So, I would like to thank Ron and Jonathan for my video in ASRS. Thank you very much, Ron.
Hey, congratulations, Takashi.
Jonathan, deja de compartir, ahí va. Y yo hacemos la intro y ya empezamos en tiempo inglés. Bienvenidos todos. A ver, espero que estén muy bien, todos bienvenidos. Tenemos un panel excelente en el día de hoy. Y vamos a ver aquí. Un segundito, déjenme ver a ver si les puedo compartir la pantalla. No, espérate. Who is sharing the screen?
Me. Want me to remove it?
Sí. Déjame compartir a mí la intro. Ahí está. I'm going to do an intro in Spanish, okay, guys?
Perfect.
Bueno, bienvenidos a todos los que están. Hoy estamos con una idea magistral del Dr. Jonathan Lake, Takashi Ida y Ron Yeo, que se llama Cracking the Code. Van a ver qué significa y por qué teníamos tantas ganas de hacerla. Queremos también que nos digan rápidamente. Ya estamos hablando con ustedes y igualmente nos interesa siempre saber de dónde son, cómo están con la cirugía, qué técnicas están haciendo, sobre todo para entender su situación y cómo podemos ayudarlos. A todos los que están por ahí, nuevamente, síganos en redes para entender lo que se viene en los siguientes días, que se vienen muchas sorpresas. Hashtag En Casa con Ophthalmo University. Suscríbanse al canal de YouTube. Ahí es donde tenemos toda la biblioteca de cosas que estamos haciendo. Mucha gente siempre nos pregunta dónde están, dónde puedo encontrar. En el canal de YouTube, ahí tienen todo. Those who speak in English, we ask you to subscribe also in YouTube. We have a lot of material, and everything we do, we record it, and it's in the YouTube channel if you want to go see it. Siempre Ophthalmo University, una plataforma para aprender unos de otros, para compartir, para transmitir conocimiento, para darles herramientas. Y les garantizo que van a llevar muchas medicina basada en la evidencia como el pilar fundamental de todo lo que... Y todo debe estar con evidencia, siempre con las ganas de que tú formes tu opinión. Nosotros no queremos informarte, queremos darte herramientas para que luego tú decidas qué informaciones de calidad y que no, que quiere colaborar. En la mañana tenemos workshops, en la tarde clases virtuales, así que bienvenidos a todos. Y ya hoy en la tarde entonces tenemos un equipo genial. ¿Me ven ahí bien? ¿Sí? ¿Me escuchan bien? Bien. Tenemos una clase magistral de cómo aprender, por ejemplo, M6 rápido. Vieron que hablamos de FACO, pero también les decimos que pueden... Vamos a ver un equipo joven muy interesante que también nos van a hablar de simulador virtual de M6. Mañana, Top 10 Tips in OCT for glaucoma. ¿Sí? 10 tips en OCT para glaucoma. Nos tiene acostumbrados, clases magistrales. Tenemos un modo, miren qué interesante, mezclando glaucoma con córnea, va a estar muy interesante. But for Saturday, those who speak in English, especially you, Ron, I don't know, maybe the time is not good for you. Look what who we're gonna have.
My
I'm
friend
talking in
Jeffrey
English
Tabin.
because it's gonna be in English. Yes, it's gonna be in English, but it's gonna be incredible, incredible. Jeffrey Tabin, an ophthalmologist like us, who climbed Everest, was almost a professional tennis player, but also is the founder of the Himalayan project. So you can imagine. We need to listen
Good friend
to what
of mine.
he has to say, right?
Yeah.
Amazing guy, amazing talk. So this is 3 p.m. from Mexico. Probably, yeah, it's very
3 a.m. in Singapore.
it's gonna be like 4 a.m. for you, Ron.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna grab you at that time.
No,
But it's gonna be recorded and it's gonna stay in YouTube.
Sure.
And okay, let's start. Let's crack the code. And I love this video because it says something important. Entonces, esto dice algo muy importante, ¿no? Y quiero que vean este video, ¿no? Y creo que tiene mucho que ver con la primera pregunta que va a venir. Y es exactamente eso. To crack the lens. Partir la catarata. ¿Qué tan importante creen ustedes que es partir la catarata? Lisa, a ver si le podemos preguntar a la audiencia. So we're going to ask the audience, okay, in this moment. What do you think is most important? Do you think it's most important to crack the lens or to emulsify the lens and extract the lens? ¿Qué creen que es más importante? ¿Fracturarlo o extraerlo? ¿Sí? Times right and Ron, I would like to think to understand what you think. We are more about, oh, we need to emulsify the lens and parameters and everything, but there's many surgeons that said that the most important thing is to crack it, and when you have a lot of fragments, everything becomes easier, right?
I would say crack.
Okay,
as well.
so look at the audience. Very good. Muy bien, muy bien.
Votar, ¿no? No podemos votar acá.
No, ustedes no, los expertos no pueden votar, solo los participantes. So 89% of people thinks that it's most important to crack the lens. I have to be honest. I think it was mislead, you know, because for me, the two parts are important, right? It's important to crack it, and it's important to know how to emulsify it. But I agree that when you know how to fracture the lens, okay, when you know, like, everything becomes easier. So this takes me to the next question, because we're gonna talk about what an all-inclusive mindset is, you know. So right now, we're gonna share with you many different techniques for you to apply in many different, you know, situations. Pon la segunda, Lisa. So right now we change a little bit the question. What do you guys think it's most difficult to master? Okay, is it more difficult to master to crack the lens or to emulsify and extract the lens? Tell us what you think so we can start. But it's important to understand what's your opinion. Again, this is going to be you need to have an open mindset today. We're going to talk about many different things, and you're going to learn a lot. We also are very happy to share with you, interesting. So the most important thing is to crack it, but the most difficult thing is to crack it, okay? This is very good. So this is Entonces nos dice algo muy bueno, nos dice que hoy realmente vamos a un tema clave de la cirugía de catarata. So we're going to a very important part of cataract surgery. We want to introduce you guys to fakementors.com. We're going to be part of it. You guys are going to have a lot of content, a lot of videos, a lot of mentors talking about specifically phaco. So, you know, you will know soon about it. Y yo quería mostrar, en honor a un gran maestro que tengo, que es el doctor Alejandro Cruz, que me introdujo a la cirugía de catarata, esta cirugía, ¿sí? Esto es como habitualmente hacemos un pre-chop nosotros. Como ven, le gusta a él peinar el lente, ¿sí? Entrar a ese punto clave de profundidad, pero él tiene una forma interesante de partirlo, miren ahí, como una tríada, ¿sí? Partirlo en 3 partes paralelas inicialmente, luego rotarlo muy gentilmente. Esto parece muy sencillo a simple vista, pero luego tiene sus pequeños detalles. ¿Y por qué introdujo esto? Porque él me enseñó esta técnica y en honor a él es la técnica de utilizar solo un puerto, de no hacer paracentesis. ¿Y por qué no hacer paracentesis? Quiero que vean cómo se comporta esa cámara anterior. Si además que se entran burbujas, que ese es un problemita ahí que tiene otra causa, quiero que vean la estabilidad de esa cámara anterior y cómo todo lo fluye, todo viene hacia mí, ¿sí? Entonces, ¿qué quería decir de importancia? Que tener un buen pre-chop y saber un buen pre-chop nos permitió pensar diferente y nos permitió avanzar a esta técnica de un puerto. Entonces, creo que es muy interesante y para ya terminar muy rápido, quería mencionarles que otro de nuestros maestros lo que tiene es esto, que es el pre-chop. Tiene su pre-chop y tiene su ultra-chop, ¿ok? En este caso estamos viendo cómo el doctor Luis Scaff con su ultra-chopper también para cataratas duras, ¿sí? Es muy, muy bueno y vieron cómo este es su pre-chop que diseñó personalmente y cómo ven cómo con el ultra-chopper esas líneas quedan perfectas para poder fracturar inclusive una catarata dura. Esas eran las 2 cosas que quería mostrar yo. Ahora viene el doctor Jonathan Lake, ¿sí? Para seguir con toda esta plática y quedo abierto ahora también a todas las preguntas y vamos a empezar el diálogo. Jonathan, somos todos tuyos.
Bueno, muchas gracias. Voy a empezar en español, después voy al inglés para que hablamos todos. Muchas gracias por eso. Hablamos de Uruguay, ¿no? Que somos el país, pero yo creo que Latinoamérica es muy importante por los cirujanos y todas las técnicas y observamos acá el Ultra Chopper que fue desarrollado por Luis Scaff y es una técnica increíble. Takashi va a demostrarlo más para frente. Ese asunto para mí es apasionante porque, y queremos mostrar las técnicas, porque yo creo que una vez que empezamos con el crack, con una fractura, entonces ganamos el juego, ¿no? Porque la facodinámica, la facomodificación es compleja y son situaciones diferentes y tenés flujo y tenés la entrada y salida de líquido y cuando lo tenés todo arreglado y separado, estamos listos. Entonces, quise llamar a Takashi Ida and then Ron. Ron, I was telling them how this is a very passionate subject for myself because with all the devices that we've been exposed to for the past 15 to 20 years, and with whatever's coming up ahead, if you dominate a pre-chopping technique, then basically you have the surgery, you have the lens all set up for you regardless of the situation.
Absolutely.
And then you're prepared for any kind of new situation that might show up. And
Absolutely.
we have several techniques.
And Jonathan, just a quick note. We have an amazing colleague that it's Dr. Jorge Hernández Cospin, ¿sí? Que en YouTube va a estar traduciendo todo en tiempo real al español para los que hablamos en español. Así que todos tranquilos, el que se pierda con algo de inglés, en YouTube van a tener eso, muy importante, ¿sí? Perdón, Jonathan.
Muchas gracias, entonces. So so the whole idea, and one thing that I've realized, especially with maybe more complex techniques of pre-chopping, is that sometimes you have to leave your comfort zone in order to acquire this technique. But once you dedicate yourself to it, and then we have the pre-chopping sessions and courses at the ASCRS, Ron and Takashi and Nakahoshi, which was one of the pioneers, they've been really championing this technique. And the whole idea here is I really believe that once we achieve a critical mass of worldwide pre-choppers, I think cataract surgery as a whole will be incredible. So these videos later on, well, thank you very much, Ivo, with all your with everything you've been doing for ophthalmology now, and having this online fully available for anybody, that's just an incredible notion. So I would like to start first with Ron, talking about the karate pre-chop.
Shall I start?
And then we'll move on to Takashi, that has an amazing video with some of the techniques. And then I would like to share some of the techniques that we'll be showing at the virtual ASCRS, and then hopefully later on all the digital platforms in this new worldwide situation here. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. We know in Singapore it's a challenging time right now, and it's great to have you with us, Ron.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Well, good morning. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Can you hear me? Can you see my slides?
Perfectly.
Yes. Perfect.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for inviting me to speak on really pre-chop pearls and pitfalls. More than half of my patients get a pre-chop, so I'm going to talk about it. And it would be remiss of us to talk about pre-chop without acknowledging Dr. Akahoshi's contribution. Of course, Taka won the film festival with his technique 20 years ago, so thank you to Taka. So I'm going to concentrate really on karate pre-chop. And a few weeks ago, we did the mastery in cataract surgery. And really, I think the pre-chop technique is perfect for what I call the neither here nor there cataracts that are not hard and not soft. And really, you can use it up to NS2 or 3 plus with the latest pre-chopper designs. But you have to be careful that if it's denser, you need to use a nucleus sustainer and do counter pre-chop. So a direct chop or karate pre-chop, as Taka taught us, is with this is a combo 2 pre-chopper going straight into the heart of the nucleus, pressing down and then opening the blades, and that cracks it into half. And then you rotate the nucleus 90 degrees, as you can see here. And then when you get it in alignment, you do the second cracks, second pre-chops, which really divides it into 4 quadrants. And this, of course, achieves a 4-quadrant nucleofractus without the need for an expensive femtosecond laser. But actually, more important than that, it actually shows one great advantage over the femto laser. And if we look at this other case again, we're cracking it with a direct karate pre-chop. And nowadays, I'm using the live OCT on the Zeiss microscope. And you can see here, up here, when you've done a pre-chop, you can actually see the posterior capsule right at the bottom here on the screen here. And you will see right in a minute, the lines there, the 2 parallel lines are posterior capsule with some cortex, but the nucleus is completely divided, which is much better off than a femtosecond nucleofractus. So I showed you this slide earlier. So karate pre-chop, I use a lot of it. Are there any added uses? Can it get us out of trouble? And the answer is yes. Have a look at this case. This case is one of my residents attempting to do a stop and chop in a neither here nor there nucleus. And you can see he's done a groove and now he's trying to crack the nucleus, but the chopper is again cutting through the nucleus and not really separating. So he tries it from the other direction, rotates the lens 180 degrees, grooves it a little bit more, and then tries to crack it. And to his credit, he's able to get a bit of a crack here, but that's not enough. You only got a partially cracked nucleus here that hasn't gone all the way along that groove. So by this time, he's lost it and he said, can you please take over and help me? But it's tricky, right? You've got a bit of a bowl here. You've got a soft cataract. So I thought, well, why don't we just use the pre-chopper to complete it? And here's my first pre-chop of the partially separated heminucleus distally. So now that quadrant up at the top is free. And then I rotate it around. Now I'm going to try and complete this groove bit. And you see I rotated the chopper 180 degrees so that the curved edge is really separating the 2 nuclear fragments, not using the sharp tip in the depths of that groove. And then I rotate it further to get the last heminucleus divided into quadrants as well. And once you've done this, so now I actually have the 4 free quadrants that we were trying to achieve. What we said earlier in your poll, Ivo, it's more important to crack, because once you've got the crack done, you can teach a monkey to remove the 4 quadrants. And here you can see the quadrants beginning to come out very easily. So I think this is a case where, you know, being able to pre-chop actually helps you get out of trouble. Although I would say that perhaps this surgeon should have learned pre-chop in the first place, and was a better technique to do in this neither here nor there cataracts. So moving away from the chop itself, I thought, you know, we don't really talk too much about complications, but we should. And in terms of karate pre-chop, you can get zonular damage, particularly if you've underestimated the density of the nucleus and you need to use a nucleus sustainer, otherwise you're going to break the zonules. If your AC is not deep enough, you're going to get endothelial damage. If your hydrodissection is not good enough, your rotation will damage zonules. You can get PC rupture if you go too deep. But is there anything else? And I'd like to share with you my recent experience of another complication. Just over a year ago, I got the newest Akahoshi Combo 4 pre-chopper. It's slimmer, it's sharper with a longer, straight, sharp edge. And the advantage of this, it can pre-chop even denser nuclei beyond 2+, up to 3+. I was really excited when I got this new pre-chopper. Cost me $700 US from Esico, not a cheap instrument. So I did my first few cases. And you know what? First case I did, do you see that radial tear here on the left side of the incision? There's a radial tear here. I was not impressed. You know, why was that? So I went back to look at the video. What did I do wrong? This is that same case that I just showed you with that radial tear. And I saw that my CCC perhaps wasn't the biggest, you know, it was a reasonable one, but maybe just not big enough. And then I watched it. Okay, here you can see the golden ring of the good hydrodelamination. So I don't think that I caused that radial tear by this pre-chopping act. You can see the pre-chopper. This is a combo 4, very sharp, goes into this 2 or 3+ nucleus very, very easily. Okay, but then this rotation, and I suspect, you see, when I'm rotating the nucleus using the sharp tip of this sharper pre-chopper, that maybe I snagged the edge of the capsulorhexis. So this is what I think happened in this particular radial tear to the left of the incision. I thought maybe that was a one-off. You know, I'm not that bad a surgeon, but once in a while we get this trouble. Then my next case, look, this is another case. Do you see there's another radial tear on the left-hand side of the incision? I say, gee, okay, that's the second anterior radial tear within a week of having this new instrument. So, you know, fortunately, I could still get the lens into the bag, and then went back to look, and this is that same case again of the radial tear, and I looked at my CCC here, and you can see that in this case, my CCC again is a little bit on the small side, and I think that that does contribute to the creation of these radial tears. And again, what we always do, of course, is once we've done the primary chop, we rotate the nucleus, and we tend to use this pre-chopper to do it. And you see how that little dialing motion with the tip, and you can imagine that you could catch the edge of a small CCC quite easily if you did that. So those were a couple of cases. So, but then within that first week, I ended up having 4 radial tears doing karate pre-chop with this new Akahoshi Combo 4 design. And I noticed that they were all sub-incisional. I've shown you 2 that were on the left. I'll show you one that's on the right very shortly. But here it's worth us thinking about which pre-chopper is actually best for karate pre-chop. Many of us use the long-established Combo 2 pre-chopper, but you know, you probably couldn't go beyond 1.5 to 2+. But I would say I never had a sub-incisional radial tear despite this. So when the Combo 4 was released about a year ago, sharper, thinner, longer, as I said, it could pre-chop 3+, but 4 cases in the first week with sub-incisional radial tears. Why? Well, who better to ask than my dear friend, Dr. Akahoshi. So when I called him and said, well, you know, I've used your new pre-chopper for a week, you know, and ruptured 4 anterior capsular rims. Have you seen it? Oh no, I've done 20,000 with this, and I've never had a anterior radial tear. And then I realized, of course, you know, Dr. Akahoshi, being Dr. Akahoshi, never gets these radial tears because he's just so good at it. So I told him, but you know, for us, most of us are ordinary, normal surgeons. There's something not quite right here. So I realized that I had to analyze and find out why this was so myself. So my next case, you look at this capsulorhexis. You see my rhexis was very small, and more importantly, it was eccentric. It was too far away from the incision. So I noticed a radial tear and this time to the right of the incision, just about here on the right, and we'll see that in a moment. This was a toric multifocal lens as well. You can see the edge of the CCC there. So I was really getting quite upset, by this time, 3-4 cases of radial tears, which I normally do not get. Here's the IOL scene. Those are that, and here's the anterior radial tear on one side and the radial tear on the other side over there. So what's going on? Pre-chop radial tears, I think, is a combination of factors making for what I would like to call a perfect storm. Of course, I like to blame that it's the new pre-chopper, it's a lousy design, but that is totally not true. It's a brilliant design for the harder cataracts, but it was because my technique was flawed, and in some cases, my CCC wasn't as large as it should have been, and it was more eccentric than it should have been, especially in the subincisional area. And the radial tears were caused really during rotation or pre-chopping of the proximal subincisional heminucleus. So I thought, I would really like to modify this to make it a little bit safer, because although it's much sharper, it's also a little bit more dangerous. So I thought I'd modify the combo 4 to combo 5. The challenge being to retain the sharpness and thinness of the instrument, but shorten that straight sharp edge, which could cut the edge of the subincisional CCC. So I remember thinking about this during the middle of a clinic between 2 patients, and I scribbled this out. And this is my drawing that shows what actually happens when I'm rotating or chopping the subincisional nucleus. And that if this straight edge, which is sharper in combo 4, is long, you can actually catch the edge of the CCC very easily. And I sent this and my suggested design to Asiko, who made all of Akahoshi's combo pre-choppers, and said that the Akahoshi combo 4 with the long, straight, sharp edge at the bottom maybe could be made safer by just reducing the sharp bit to half. Maybe not, in my original drawing, this was very small, but if your sharp bit's so short, it's not going to be very effective getting into these harder 2 or 3 plus nuclei. So Asiko very quickly came back with a new design for me. So reducing this red arrow sharp bit on the combo 4 Akahoshi to one about half that size in combo 5. And here you see another angle from the longer straight edge to the shorter straight edge. And here you see the combo 2 on the left, which is the thickest one, to the combo 4, which is Akahoshi's design, and my modification, which is the combo 5 on the extreme right. So my last video, just to share with you all, is that now when you're doing a pre-chop, make sure your capsulorhexis is large. So I'm paying more attention. Make sure it's big enough. Make sure it's near the incision. I talked to you just about hydrodissection. How important is it? Look at this. This is a beautiful image from intraoperative OCT. There's the fluid wave cleaving the nucleus, epinucleus. That's subcortex there. Now, with these, if they're neither here nor there, I like to do hydrodelamination as well. And when I go in, I push the nucleus and watch what happens to the fluid. When I push down, the fluid is flattened and goes all the way around. And then I do my hydrodelamination, and you can see that the nucleus is being beautifully isolated here at the back. And when I inject on the right, you will see that the fluid wave goes up there. So now we have a beautifully free nucleus that makes it easier to rotate, makes it safer and less threatening to the anterior capsular CCC rim. Now here is combo 4 and combo 5. Okay, oh sorry, this is combo 2, the original combo 2. That's the combo 4 on the right. And this is my combo 5, which is the shortened, what I like to think is maybe a bit safer, not for Akahoshi standard, but obviously for general surgeons who are trying pre-chop. Here's the combo 5 with the, you can see the shortened sharp edge on the right. And then you go in and we can just do exactly the same. This is another 2+ nucleus, and you can just put in, and you can see it goes into the nucleus very, very easily. And then when I'm doing this rotation, I can nudge the nucleus around, and I feel so much safer knowing that the underneath straight edge is not sharp all the way, because remember, you cannot see the capsulorhexis during your pre-chop. Sometimes you can, but most of the time you can't. So, and once you've done the 2 chops, the nucleus is easily removed, and you can see here that we have a beautifully round and clear capsulorhexis at the end without any further danger of tearing the anterior capsular rim. So just to sum up, you have many pre-choppers, and Takashi, you introduced me to your instrument maker, and I hope he can use this design and do it as well. The Combo 2 is still a great instrument, but I think it goes up to 1, maybe 1.5 plus. The new Combo 4 is very good up to 3 plus, but you have to make sure your Rexis is large and central. And finally, the modification I hope that ASICO will put this into production, is that it's good for up to 2 to 3 plus, but you know, the small pupil, if you have a small pupil, it's much safer, or if you have a small capsular Rexis, it is also much safer. So I think the Combo 5 is actually very, very safe technique. You might ask, what's the point of Combo 5 if you got a Combo 2? Well, the Combo 5, don't forget, is much thinner and will penetrate the denser nuclei much more safely. Okay, so I've just presented to you really some of the uses of karate pre-chop and complications when you're modifying the pre-chopper. Thank you so much. I'd like to welcome all of you to Singapore next year.
Since you're there, just
yeah.
questions. I really like, one of the important things is we don't have a commercial interest, but ASICO people is here with us. And as you can see, ASICO helped Dr. Scaff, helped you, helped Bakaoshi. So if anybody wants, you know, to get in touch with them, if you have a good idea for a new pre-chopper, I think these are the guys to talk to.
Absolutely.
And Ron, do you have any problems with the new combo in smaller incisions? Because what I'm seeing is I use combo 2, and my problem is when I do a 2.2 or maybe smaller incision, it's hard for me to move it. What do you think about that?
That's a very good question. All my incisions are 2.2. And what I've seen, and I don't know whether you saw from my earlier presentation, when I put the 3 instruments side by side, the hinge sizes are very variable. And we've brought this issue up to ASICO and saying that you need to have great consistency. Even if you're modifying the blades, your hinge has to be a fixed small size that goes through a 2.2. And I think when the quality control is tightened up and they make those small for 2.2, we shouldn't have this problem anymore.
Great, amazing. Perfect. You're on mute.
Oh, as usual, I was blown away by your presentation here. It was fantastic. I love that you went through the instruments here. I learned a lot. I really liked your OCT images because those are for the retina guys, and seeing it applied here for the anterior OCT. Right, Takashi? We're going to have to get one of those now, right?
Yeah. Oh, you have to. It's fabulous for us doing all these talks.
So this is incredible. Thank you so much. Right now, Takashi is going to present his techniques. It's based on this video here, and I just
put on play.
Yes, I will. We'll be playing and pausing according to each situation. I can't get tired of watching these images. I think Takashi has gotten one of the best images for pre-chopping and other techniques here. So this is going to be incredible. Yeah. So if you want to, can we hear you, Takashi?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. First, gracias a todas las personas presentes por su asistencia. Empecé a estudiar español, pero todavía sé hablar muy poco. Yo entiendo casi mas o tema desta apresentação is about pre-chop, okay? I'm talking English. So I congratulate Ron, Takayuka Kahoshi, and Ivo and everybody, Alessandro. This is a really good to share my experience with the pre-chop technique. And as you can see the video, oh, I shut down the video here. Let me see. Okay. So you can go on, yeah. So I'm gonna talk some steps about the pre-chop. Okay, so in 2007, I visited Mitsui Memorial Hospital. My interest was to learn pre-chop with Dr. Akahoshi. And my interest started to grow more and more. I wasn't a pre-chopper doctor, but I learned a lot from Dr. Nakano. He was there are two famous universities in Brazil, and there was a contribution on Brazilian residency cataract learning board for these kind of surgery. So at least about 200 residency and fellowship, 7 courses, live surgeries every year have a PreChop education program in Brazil. So I am a big believer in the PreChop techniques. I think research shows that these techniques reduce at least 10 to 50% of ultrasound energy compared to stop and chop and divide and conquer technique. Is it the video going on? Hello?
No, it's pause. It's going slowly.
Oh.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. I think everybody have seen many times the PreChop. I adopt a specific modification for my routine surgical strategies. I think there is a little different types of techniques, but when Dr. Kozo Nakano, father of Celso Nakano, brought PreChop to Brazil, I learned the concept with him, and then I learned with Dr. Kahoshi in Japan, and started to change my own practice, learning and managing technically the information with Dr. Akahoshi. Okay. So during my years of residency, I started with a pre-slice technique, and then you can see the PreChop is really a pre-fracture, pre-slice, but the first publication of the pre-slice was Dr. Kahoshi in 1998, and stopped again the video. Is it going on? So I'm gonna show the videos original from Dr. Akahoshi, as you can see, and this is the counter technique where he uses the universal technique. So since 1998, he uses the both counter, pre-slice, and pre-chop technique, and he described these techniques very earlier. Let's say that was the first publication in pre-fracture technique. 6 months later, Jack Dodick, he published in another publication about the pre-slice technique. So here you can see the original Dr. Akahoshi counter technique, where he uses the universal and the sustainer pre-chop. So these techniques described and showed by Dr. Akahoshi is all in 1.8 millimeters. I was really impressed that he was using 1.8 millimeters with the nano sleeve, using the pre-fracture technique. So this is the ultra chopper technique, Dr. Scaff's ultra chopper technique, where you can combine the pre-chop technique together. So you can combine with the universal or the combo 2 or combo 4 after the using the Dr. Scaff the ultra chopper technique. So you can see usually we can do this with a one-handed one incision, and the thing is we can use this properly in the hard cataract. So you can see in the video here using the combo 2 after using the ultra chop. So you can see you can reduce a lot the energy by using these different techniques. Okay. So can you show? I think we can jump the next one and go direct to the last, the Miyake view. Yeah, the Miyake view pre-chop. Can you, Dr. Jonathan? Jonathan? Can you hear me?
Right on.
Okay. So this is a Miyake view, a PreChop. So you can see the zonula traction, and you can see how gentle it is when you open. See, and magnification, visualization. You can see the stress of the zonula. You can see opening and reopening, and you can see the size of the incision too. You can see the how gentle is the technique. So this was made in Moroni with me and Dr. Takashi Nakano, and we provided from cadaver eyes in Salt Lake City with Dr. Liliana Werner. So this is the last video I want to share. This is the PreChop in LensX cases. I think in Brazil, at least, most of the pre-choppers, was really introduced a lot in the let's say the old school by the introduction of the LensX and the femto lasers, because the fragmentation, the pre-fragmentation done by the laser provided a softer nucleus, helping making a section where you can introduce the PreChop and break it more in 1 piece and in 4 piece, while you design exactly as you want on the femto program. So this is a video of my practice where I'm using the LensX, and we use the fragmentation pattern. And on the fragmentation pattern, we can see that the first time you can do only the section where you put the PreChop, or you can do the frag pattern where you can have the introduction chop. You can put more ahead, Jonathan, where you have the pre-fracture. So there, the pre-fracture, and a little more ahead where we can see the frag pattern there. So you can see the frag pattern of the PreChop. Okay, so that was so most of the, let's say the 50% of the practice usually was the soft nucleus. Now with the femto, we have like 80% of adoption of the PreChop, because 30% added by the femto. Okay, so this is the combo 2 showing the different types of the Akahoshi PreChop by Eisico. So these are the hybrid combo PreChop, the combo PreChop. There's the sharp edge and the dull edge. So probably lots of type can show the difference between others. I think people will show that. And I would like to thank again Dr. Akahoshi and everybody that's here. And thanks again. Oh, this is the International PreChop Symposium that the Dr. Akahoshi invites me almost every year. And the next one was with Dr. Ron, right, Dr. Ron? And I think in ESRS Amsterdam, right? Thank you very much.
Can I make a comment here, Takashi? Beautiful presentation. And right at the end of your video, you showed the many different types of pre-chopper that are available on the market. And that to me is sometimes a bit confusing for people who are starting pre-chop, because how do you decide which one to use, what's suitable for a softer, denser nucleus? Have you any advice to the beginning pre-choppers? Which pre-chopper would you recommend?
Yes, good question. I always call Dr. Akahoshi, and then he says, oh, start with combo 2. He always says combo 2, because like you showed the video,
combo 2 is very safe.
Yeah, combo 4 is, I think it's for experts. And he says that combo 2 is his preferred to people that are starting.
Yeah, I think that's good advice.
And also, I would like to add to that question, because there is a lot of people asking, which is not only the best pre-chop, but the best cataracts to start with pre-chopping. I will ask Ron, Takashi, and Jonathan what you guys think.
Well, I think that, I think if you're starting off on your pre-chop journey, I would reserve it for those neither here nor there cataracts, which to me are those about 1.5, maximum 2+. The type which I showed you, when you're grooving, you try to crack, they don't crack easily, and they're just hard to manage. Those are perfect for karate pre-chop. But you must do great hydrodissection, as I showed, and you should also try and do hydrodelamination so that you can rotate the nucleus. If you don't hydrodissect well enough, you get one crack where you can't move the nucleus. That's a problem. But I would say also, here's one tip. If you got this soft ones and you manage to do one crack, you can't rotate, leave it. Just with a heminucleus, you can actually proceed and do a pretty good phaco without having to do the second and third cracks, chops.
What about you, Takashi?
No, I agree with Ron, and like I said, probably when you start, when you're still learning, you have to, let's say, to learn the force that you're because it's not easy. You have a learning curve. Let's say that learning curve. You need to start with the really soft ones, and then you start with the 2 and 3, nuclear 2 or 3, and then probably the people should try counter pre-chop after you learn a lot the karate pre-chop. I think you have to learn. It looks easy, but it's not.
I'm so glad you mentioned this, Takashi, and I'm glad you mentioned about the journey also, Ron, because I do believe pre-chopping with any technique is, well, as I said, we're all passionate about it. There's a whole society dedicated to it, but there might be some kind of trap here, especially for residents, because it looks so easy, especially when we see these videos. So it's very important before going to pre-chopping to master all the steps of phacoemulsification, and I include even the sulcus. I know it looks maybe old-fashioned for the resident with all these videos, but once you dominate the sulcus and fracturing in divide and conquer and stop and chop techniques, then you have a full knowledge, and not a surgical knowledge of what the lens is and where you can go and where you cannot. And I'm going to show other techniques here, and I actually started with other techniques, and then I moved to Brasilia so I could steal Akahoshi's pre-choppers from Takashi. And then I started doing it. I said, well, it's not going the way it should, because you just go in and open it, right? No. So I talked to him a bit more. I called Takashi. I didn't call Akahoshi. And then we do this, both Takashis, right? Takashi and the other Takashi. And then we talked about it. And then there was one point then I was able to go straight to the pre-chopping. That said, it's a good idea to start dedicating some form of pre-chopping in the residency. And so regarding other techniques, I would like to show here the Visco Fracture. This was published in 2011 by Gustavo Malavasi, which is a good friend of ours. And he's a very high volume surgeon. That's basically all he does every day, nothing else. And since it's never a fast surgery, but it's quick paced, right? And then he found that with the natural sutures that are within the lens, he could find a pathway, and this is described by him. I don't know if he can actually prove it, but in the center of the lens, there's a virtual opening. And this is only good for soft cataracts, not harder ones. But here we see an almost grade 2 cataract, or 1 to grade 2. So the idea here is to look for this opening, and he describes it as almost falling into a pit. We're talking about a 500 surgery a month surgeon, so he has a different feeling from all of us. And then once you're in there, you can inject the Visco Fracture. And so for very soft nuclei, which are more fast-paced surgeries, then we can see pretty much what happens here. So this is a standard hypermillose cannula. You can use also the Visco cannulas, the thinner cannulas. It's a bit easier to use this. We find the middle here. Let me just play this here and then. So we find the middle here, and there you see, okay, I'm just having a problem with the mouse. I'll just let it roll here. So we find the middle here, and you can see that the Visco fractures the lens in 2 halves. So this is very interesting. Same thing with the PreChopper. Not super intuitive, but I do believe it's worth pursuing. And here we see another example. Same thing, soft lens. It's not as orderly as the other one, but we also can see it. So I placed here in the video, let me see if I can pause it. So the prawns, it's very inexpensive. It is interesting as the PreChopper for a one-handed technique. And a one-handed technique is very useful, especially if you're doing with the left eye, right eye, according to the type of stigmatism that you would like to treat. The only thing is that's only for soft nuclei. I've seen Malavasi doing it for harder nuclei, but then I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth trying to go beyond the limits of each technique. Let me see if this moves well here. Okay. So only soft density cataracts, but we're seeing more and more of those now, and it's part of our routine, so I think it's pretty much worth it. This is my favorite technique. Takashi was mentioning in the residency how he started out with a pre-slice. I really like the pre-slice because it's very versatile. We have 2 choppers. You can pretty much, similar to the counter pre-choppy, you can deal with any kind of cataract. So I'm talking about any kind of density, rock hard cataracts, very soft cataracts, but you have to deal with different approaches. The main problem here with this technique is that since we have to go to the periphery, then there is a steeper learning curve. So there's that, and we don't want to risk the surgery that much. The PreChopper is safer because you're working in the middle, safer because you are working in the middle. So it's, I believe there's that in its favor. And the other thing here is that these choppers are very large. This was developed by Darek and Kaman, a German surgeon, and they're 2 millimeters. While we're used to dealing with 1 millimeter and 1.5 millimeter choppers. So in the beginning, especially for those who are starting, it's very strange to start the surgery with these very large choppers. So what I did to evolve to a pre-slicing technique was starting to do conventional phaco chopping techniques using this type of chopper. I got familiarized with the very large size of it, and then I was able to start pre-slicing with both hands. And this was described in the paper that Takashi mentioned by Dr. Jack Darek, one of the pioneers in cataract surgery. Let's see if I can get this rolling. So here we go. Basically, start at the periphery, go into the middle. Since you're doing a counter chop technique, not only can you handle very hard techniques, very hard nuclei, but this is very easy on the zonules. Basically, no traction here on the zonules. So that is very interesting. That's why I really love this technique. So here we see a demonstration, and then we can just move on and fracture. This is a 2 to 3 grade nucleus in any kind of technique. This is a counter chop technique, which I will be talking about soon because it involves a very interesting instrument developed by a Brazilian guy here, Sergio Jacobovic. Now, this procedure here is absolutely crucial for pre-slicing. So what is it we see here? What is the main risk associated to this technique? Me going around the zonule and then pulling the whole capsular bag from the complex. So how do I avoid that? By using the viscoelastic, I'm pushing it here within the cortex, and we've described this as a volcano. So you can see a kind of volcano-like structure here. And the whole idea here is to use this cortex as a guide for each chopper. So this to me is the main pearl of this technique. We don't want to wrap, obviously, the lens from outside of the zonule. This is the main risk. But if we actually can see the cortex, and Trypan Blue also can help us with that, but if we use the cortex as a guide, if my chopper here is within the cortex, then I know I'm within the lens. So that's very important to me, one of the most important pearls of this type of technique. So here we use it as a guide. So watch it as how the first chopper goes within the cortex. Now this is crucial because, as I said, we have to be familiar with this type of chopper. It's a big chopper. But the second point of this type of technique is that we really have to go all the way to the periphery, all the way. If you don't go all the way, then you're not well nested within the nucleus, and then you won't achieve a perfect fracture. Now, this can be a bit scary at first. So that when I say all the way, you want it to disappear behind the iris right over here. Once it's all the way over towards the periphery, then you can make it vertical. And then we use the other incision to go into the cortex. So as I said, we show the cortex with the viscoelastic. Hydrodissection is crucial for this technique, but then hydrodelineation is even more crucial because that way we can see the cortex and we have a nucleus separated from the epinucleus. So while hydrodelineation is not crucial for maybe other pre-chopping techniques, for the pre-slicing techniques with two of these choppers, absolutely crucial, not only because it delineates the nucleus, but also because you have a protective barrier within the epinucleus. So I think that's very important. So here we have it demonstrated. We use it for separating two halves. And if I haven't lost much of the viscoelastic, then I proceed to fracturing into 3 or 4 fragments. So here we go, inside the cortex, all the way to the periphery. Then the other one also within the cortex, the nucleus is already separated. And then we proceed to separating the nucleus. So this is a white cataract with a very dense nucleus. Same concept. We use trypan blue. It's not very visible here, but then I can see where I'm at. But still, I'm going within the cortex. And then I use the cortex as a guide for the second number. And then we can proceed to, as I said, usually 2 halves is enough, but then you can go to 3 or 4 fragments as we see in this image. Now, this is very important because I'm talking about going to the periphery, moving along, but also we're going down inside the nucleus. So we have to be aware of these folds here. So this is very subtle. We can't press down on the cornea because then you're actually going with a damaging technique. So this is a myopic patient, and we can see that once I go in over here, we'll see these stria here on the cornea, and that is something that we really want to avoid. So you use the stria here as a guide for your surgery, because if you see any corneal stria, that means that you're pressing down too much. Not only is that not adequate for the technique, but it also might induce some kind of pain towards the patient. So you have to be very careful with that type. And here we can see the stria very clearly here. So use that as a guide. Now here we see a very hard cataract nucleus. The problem here, so we're separating both choppers, one towards the other. Now, if you have a very hard cataract, there's a tendency for it to rotate. So the way to overcome this is by moving very slowly. Now, this is good also for hard cataracts and for very soft cataracts, because in the soft cataracts, since they don't move and they bring up a lot of cortex, a slow movement will allow for an adequate fracture. So here we see it's a very rock hard cataract. Look how it's beginning to rotate, but you stop moving slowly and then it goes back towards a fracture. And I said we can do any kind of cataract, very versatile. Problem here is it has a steep learning curve, but as I said, I really think it's worth investing in all of these techniques, and we're trying to do this. So this is the instrument that was developed by Sergio Jakubowicz, and he called it the multifunctional chopper because he applied, just like you did now, Ron, towards combo 4 coming to combo 5, different concepts. So we can see it looks like a scythe in which you cut grass. And so what we have here, let me see a better focus. It's very interesting, very ingenious. You have a sharp edge, similar to what Ron just described right now. You have a blunt side paddle. So we have a cutting front edge, we have a blunt side paddle, and then we have another blunt area here for retraction. So we can use this here, and it's made by Goiter, which works with DK. I also have no financial interest with these, but they're just like ASICO, they're an incredible company. So this is very gentle towards intraocular structures. With this, we can retract both the iris and also the capsular bag without rupture. And this cuts very many high density nucleus. Now, this is interesting because it also is a pre-slicing and pre-fracturing technique using 2 choppers, but we work within the middle. So we use the front to cut the cataract, go way deep down as a counter chop, achieving also separation of the both halves or any kind of number of fragments that we want, but we're working within the middle. Here we still have some straight. This is one of my first cases, but it associates, in my opinion, the versatility of the pre-slicing technique using dotted choppers with a lower learning curve. However, for extremely soft cataracts, I do think it's harder to, they're harder to rotate with these instruments. And for very, very, very black, hard rock cataracts, maybe you won't achieve a complete fracture. But for anything else, I do believe these choppers are worth acquiring. So these are incredible. So as I said, as the cons may not work with these extreme densities here. Now, it was interesting that Takashi showed, and we'll be going about this later, and this was presented as one of the innovators. Now, this is the wire loop for fracturing cataract nucleus. And this is interesting. This is not the MyLoop, which is available from Zeiss, although Zeiss has acquired MyLoop and has a similar product. This is from Diamatrix, and they use this for capsule sustainers, iris dilators, and also for fracturing the nucleus. And this is very interesting. It's a device. We can see that it opens up. And the whole idea is that once within the cortex, we can wrap this around the nucleus and then proceed to fracturing. So here we go into one incision, which is also interesting as advantages as a pre-chopping. Now, of course, we don't unwrap the whole nucleus, the whole capsular bag. So we have to be careful here and be within the cortex. So I do believe hydrodelineation is important. But once we're in, we rotate, we retract this wire loop, and we achieve a pure fracturing. Now, this has been described to being able to fracture more than the 2 halves. I've only so far, with my few cases, just divided this into 2 halves. Now we have an extra device that is a single use per surgery, so that is a point. And Takashi mentioned the femtosecond laser, and femtosecond laser we use for pre-fracturing, right? Not exactly, because the laser doesn't achieve a full fracture. It just allows to separate the fibers that are with the crystalline lens in any kind of format. Now, the beauty of this is, and I've been using this for all my laser cases, is that all the techniques that we saw today can be applied with femtosecond laser. So I know femtosecond laser does increase the cost of surgery, but even with this fragmented pattern, you can use pre-chopping, as Takashi has showed. You can use pre-slicing with either or the choppers. You can use a loop or anything. So this kind of wraps it up. I really love these images of the Visco Fracture. I do believe that pre-chopping should be an investment, a personal investment of all the cataract surgeons. I think you'll only benefit because all of this is without the device. So what we're doing here is pretty much performing the whole surgery, the hardest part of the surgery, and we saw that in your poll, Ivo. And then we finish the surgery with pure emulsification. So this, I do really believe it makes the surgery easier, and it makes us better prepared for any kind of future situation. So this is it, guys. I think we covered a lot of techniques
Amazing.
here.
Muy bueno, Jonathan. También para la gente que habla en español, quiero que se den cuenta de, primero preguntamos qué era lo más difícil, si era fracturar el núcleo. Luego dijimos que era lo más importante, también fracturar el núcleo. Creo que quedó claro que al fracturar el núcleo nosotros tenemos muy buenas herramientas luego para emulsificarlo. Yo creo que, ¿cuántas tocamos en total, Jonathan? Más de 10, ¿no? Más de 10 que no son el clásico esculpido, pero fue el pre-slice. El Visco Fracture fue mi favorito, te voy a ser honesto. Me encantó, voy a probarlo. Voy a salir. El Visco, me dijiste, hay un Visco en particular, ¿no? Para usar, dispersivo.
Más barato.
Más barato.
Okay.
Mejor todavía.
Pero dijiste el más barato. The cheapest viscoelastic for pre-fracturing.
For pre-fracture. Bien, entonces ahora sí en inglés quiero ir a varias conclusiones, ¿ok? Quiero que la gente que se nos quedó hasta ahora vaya en varias conclusiones. I think PreChop, as many people said it, Takashi said it, Ron said it, change it, the perspective of surgery. I was telling you, you know, my technique for one port, and this is only because of pre-chopping. So to understand, because this is theory, and people right now he's gonna run to buy one and try to do it. I think the first thing is to have the correct mindset. Don't desperate. Try to find the perfect case, and we're gonna give you a little tips because I want Ron, Takashi, and Jonathan to give you the tips about the position, okay, of the pre-chop, how deep they go, in which position of the lens, if it's in the center, the velocity and the force, okay? We need to deconstruct this because Jonathan said it. This seems easy. You see Ron, oh, pre-chop, no problem. Takashi, pre-chop, no problem. You know, Jonathan, no problem. But when you are the one trying to learn, there's many different components. And if you deconstruct that in the position, the depth, the force, the velocity, the type of cataract, and also the type of pre-chop. You saw many types of pre-chopper. I think it was clear to start with number 2. We don't have a commercial interest again, but ACCO does an amazing job. And my humble opinion is when I go to other companies, you know, I have problems in doing the pre-chop. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I will love, we're starting with Ron, then Takashi, and then Jonathan, to tell me all those little tips when you deconstruct pre-chop, right? The place, the depth, the force, the velocity. Ron, you start.
Okay, thank you, Ivo. I think without doubt, the first and most important decision is patient selection. You have to divide pre-chop to counter pre-chop for the dense ones and karate pre-chop for the not so dense ones. So I think if you limit yourself to those people up to 2+, 1 to 2+, then once you've chosen those, done the good hydrodissection, the pre-chop step itself, you really want to aim for the optic nerve. I always go to the middle of the lens, aim for the optic nerve, and push the chopper in. Now, if it goes in and it sinks in halfway, 2/3 of the way, that's fine. But if it doesn't go in, it means your nucleus is too tough for a karate pre-chop. Then don't push it, but you will break zonules. So I would say right in the middle, aim down and open it slowly. It's not, as the name karate sounds, you don't do that. You go in a measured way and open it slowly. And then you can, again, if you initiate a crack, you can go deeper and complete the crack and come nearer or go further to complete the crack. But I think if you do that, you'll be fine.
Takashi.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Ron. He said almost everything. I will say that the best thing is, of course, the middle, to hit the middle of the nucleus. This is really important. I think I always say to my fellowships and residents that you must do it slow to finish fast. And I think the best technique is the one you are more secure, but you need to try all the techniques. And I think especially for the pre-chop, it looks very easy, but it's difficult, right? I want to try Spanish. La opción de realizar la técnica de pre-chop para muscular el cristalino representa uma ventaja para la cirugía de catarata, sobre todos os pacientes, pela repercussão do endotélio corneal.
Increíble, ya tenemos que hacer uno en español contigo. Jonathan, cuéntame de esos tips, de esos pequeños detalles que crees que le puede ayudar a la persona que se va ahora a hacer pre-chop.
So I would like to call to attention two things that Ron and Takashi have already said. did you notice, Ron, how you said aim for the optic nerve and
Mhm.
how that is really a perception, right? But it's
Mhm.
exactly that. I mean, you're there in the anterior segment, you're aiming towards the optic nerve. And this about the speed, you know, Takashi said, go slower to finish faster. But I think there's a time warp inside the eye in which everything is moving much faster. Because if you look at the videos and you went into, let's go very slowly, you know, and go for the pre-chopping or the pre-slicing or any other technique, but then it's like 6 seconds, 7 seconds, and that's really slow. So it's really nothing, but we think it's really fast. And especially when we're in the residency, we want the surgery to finish quickly. We want to get out of the eye as fast as we got in. So it is a mindset, and it's very important to work on that before the surgery. And frustration is just part of surgery. It's part of your learning and your upbringing. So you have to deal with that with the surgeries. So I've seen a lot of surgeons beginning to do pre-chopping, becoming frustrated because they're a lot better at the other technique, and then going back to the other technique. So I think, and it's appeal to everybody, since we're here and we're basically informal, to really try until you master this, because all of you will benefit a lot from these techniques.
Excelente, excellent. So just to finish, we want to invite everybody also into facomentors.com. We're gonna start doing only about Faco. Imagine only virtual classes for Faco. Ron, we want you there so much. So we're gonna try to invite you as many as we can before you start working long hours. Okay?
You're working me hard, Ivo.
No, I think it's amazing. There's a lot of young people trying to learn. I think we could do, because we're doing an exercise right here, is to transfer skills and to transfer knowledge and to give them tips for that specific moment when they try a new technique like PreChop, right? There's nothing like doing it. I agree. You know, there's nothing like doing something to understand what's happening. But if you can then come back, you know, you have a video right now, you can go back and see what Ron, Takashi, and Jonathan said, and, you know, have all these little tips. I'm sure that that experience is going to be much better. Um, so I want you to give you guys, you know, some minutes to just say bye to the audience. We did 1 hour English timing. I love that, because people in 1 hour have a lot of skills, you know, not too much talking, but skills, and tips. So I really want to thank you guys again. And then we can start with Ron, then Takashi, then Jonathan, you know, giving just the last thoughts about today.
Okay. I'll tell you a story. I tried pre-chop when Taka taught it to us maybe 15, 18 years ago, and I failed. I did maybe 3 or 4 cases. I didn't get the concepts right that we understand today. And I thought, yeah, it's not a good technique. But I tell you how I came back to pre-chop was after I did femtosecond laser with, you know, femto fragmentation, 4 segments, 6 segments, 8 segments. It's incomplete. So I then used one of Taka's old pre-choppers to complete the fragmentation. And after having done a number of cases after femtosecond laser, I felt very comfortable, and then came back and really really was able to do the karate pre-chop very well. So I would advise, start with karate pre-chop, and when you've mastered it, then go to counter pre-chop. Take it slowly.
Very good. Takashi?
Yes. Oh, I agree with Ron. I'm a big believer in pre-chop. I was like Ron. I was struggling, and after I visited Dr. Kahoshi 13 years ago as a student, I really saw that that's the technique I should learn. And last year, I went with Ron and Dr. Akahoshi to perform surgeries on Indian tribes, and I was really impressed how is doing surgery with him after all these years. After you see by your eyes, doing only complicated cases, serious IFAS cases, and I was really impressed how that changed. I think people should know that the best technique is the one that you have less complication and you're secure. But like I said, everybody needs to learn everything. PreChop is an option. Yeah.
Let me do a comment, because I love, you said it for the second time, and I love this concept about surgical principles, and I agree with you so much, because Jonathan was showing us amazing techniques of how to, fracture the lens and many things. But when we think about surgery, we need to think about safety first, right? It's the patient. We want a good outcome, and we are trying a new technique, but always with safety first. And as we can see here, like the three of you showed, PreChop can be very safe if you use it wisely, and you can save so much ultrasound, and you have amazing walls of the lens to manage after. So I wanted to say that again. I love what you say about safety for the patient. Sorry.
It's a very interesting point, Ivo, because as you can see, Ron mentioned it and Takashi mentioned it, and we all struggle. We always struggle. And I do believe in looking for security, but there's a problem as surgeons, is if you're too secure within your technique, I mean, or anything, then there's not much room for progress, and we need to progress in somehow. So how do we balance this with safety for the patient? Well, with the workshops, Ivo, this is what you're doing, because basically when I started any kind of new technique, I see the video about 1,000 times. Yamane blew our minds off a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago now with his technique. I watched that video about, I don't know, over 100 times easy to go over that. One thing that I think is very important is not operating alone. So what do? We talk together. Now we have the whole world ahead of us, right? But I go to Takashi. Takashi, look at this technique. What do you think of it? There's potential. What can we do? So let's sit down and analyze it. And then we go to the patient and we start it, but with protective measures towards the patient. So it has to be a step-by-step procedure. I do believe surgery has to have feedback from a third eye, and that can be another surgeon, which is wonderful. Soon, maybe we'll do Instagram live surgeries, right? So we can hear from everybody at once, but that's good to the nurse. Takashi's nurse, she's seen over 20,000 surgeries. I mean, what kind of input? That's incredible input. She knows what's happening. She knows what's happening in surgery before. So this feedback is very important to instrument safety, and that allows us to progress. So it's a very fine balance, and this is incredible. And maybe we can do something just talking about that, Ivo. Congratulations on everything you've been doing.
No, congratulations to you guys. Thank you for your time. You're so generous with your time. We know you have a lot of things to do, and we're here sharing with colleagues all around the world. I want to invite you guys again. We need to do a volume 2 from this. People are asking so many questions, so happy. So Ron, Takashi, and Jonathan, thank you so much for your time, and hope to have you here soon. Ron, it's your house, already. This is your house already,
Thank you very much, Ivo. Here's something that I'm going to give to Takashi.
Sure.
Your movie for next year, PreChop. PreChop and its complications. There. And it started here.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time, and see you guys soon, okay?
Goodbye.
Yeah. Good night, Ron.
Good night.
Good night, Ron. Good night, Lisandro.
Lisandro, thank you. Hasta luego.